Come on now, it was only a matter of time before I made a downfall video about Will Smith. It's hard to think of anyone more qualified for this series. He was a man who once ruled the entertainment business with nothing but his charm and charisma. For decades, Will Smith was the king of blockbusters, a beloved global superstar who built up more goodwill than most celebrities could ever dream of. But then he managed to destroy his entire legacy faster than Hollywood can pretend it never liked you in the first place. So today we're going through the rise, the reign, and the spectacular downfall of Will Smith, a man who in a moment of misplaced heroism tried to defend his wife's honour only to lose his own in the process.
That's what you call ironic.
Willard Carroll Smith II was born in 1968 in Pennsylvania, where conflict at home was normal, arguments were routine, and violence wasn't unusual. As a child, he once watched his father attack his mother, a moment that stayed with him and by his own admission created a deep fear of confrontation and a desperate need to keep everyone around him calm. It's a bit depressing, I know, but the good news is I think he's over that now. As a teenager, Will teamed up with DJ Jazzy Jeff, becoming early pioneers of pop rap, which was fun, upbeat, radio-friendly music that didn't take itself too seriously. It helped launch Will into the mainstream, and in 1989 they won the first ever Grammy for rap. There was just one little problem. Young Will Smith was absolutely terrible with money. He spent his cash faster than he earned it, and soon the IRS came knocking. He didn't just owe a little bit, by the way, he owed $2.8 million.
Fuck.
As a result, agents seized his stuff and Will suddenly found himself on the brink of financial disaster. But then along came Quincy Jones, who was a musical legend, a TV producer, and basically Will's guardian angel, offering him the lead role in a new sitcom, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Now, Will didn't want to do TV because he saw himself as a rapper, but the alternative was homelessness, so TV it was. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was an instant hit. Despite having no experience in acting, Will learned quickly, and by the time the series ended, he had sharpened his timing, expanded his range, and was seen as a credible actor. So naturally, Hollywood took one look at him and was like,
"Oh my God, yes!"
And so began the Will Smith era, the blockbuster golden age. The man was a hit machine. Independence Day, Men in Black, Bad Boys, Enemy of the State, I, Robot, I Am Legend. The list just keeps going. He wasn't just a movie star, he was the movie star. For over a decade, he was unstoppable. Ali in 2001 proved he wasn't just a popcorn actor. He transformed his body, voice, and entire presence to portray Muhammad Ali, earning serious artistic respect. Then The Pursuit of Happiness in 2006 cemented him as a powerful dramatic performer. It showed vulnerability instead of swagger, and his chemistry with his real son Jaden added authenticity. He truly earned his second Oscar nomination, and a lot of people believed he should have won. By the late 2000s, Will Smith was on top of the world. Audiences loved him. He was arguably the biggest name in Hollywood, and almost everything he did was a success. But as the saying goes, what goes up must come down, and 2013's Afterearth was the first real warning sign. The film was a dull and joyless vanity project that was meant to launch Jaden Smith as an action star. Instead, it exposed everything wrong with the production, awkward performances, flat direction, and world building that made no sense. Audiences ended up roasting it, and critics had a field day. The movie was so bad that Jaden actually looked into the legal options for getting some distance from his dad, and Will has said it was the most painful failure of his career, but unfortunately, it wouldn't be the last. In 2015, he tried to regain some artistic credibility with Concussion, clearly positioned as an Oscar comeback. But when the awards season rolled around, the Academy, well, they didn't give a shit. So Will and Jada threw their toys out of the pram and boycotted the 2016 Oscars, prompting Chris Rock to roast them in his monologue.
It's not fair that Will was this good and didn't get nominated. Yeah, you're right. It's also not fair that Will was paid $20 million for Wild Wild West, okay?
That same year, Will released another flop with Collateral Beauty. Then came Suicide Squad, which was a box office hit, but a critical disaster. By 2017, Will started to sense that his movie star power was slipping, so he reinvented himself as this sort of motivational social media guru, because nothing says I'm still a leading man like inspirational Instagram quotes. Disney's Aladdin didn't help much either. His genie was energetic and fun, but comparisons to Robin Williams were impossible to escape. He closed the decade with Gemini Man, a massive technical gamble that bombed spectacularly. By the end of the 2010s, the once unstoppable king of the box office was no more. Despite the career decline and the 2016 Oscars drama, Will Smith's public image remained relatively intact. He was still seen as the charming, family-friendly, nice guy, but behind the scenes that carefully polished persona was about to face its biggest test. Because in 2020, for reasons known only to whatever PR genius signed off on it, Will Smith agreed to sit on his wife's talk show while she calmly explained that she'd been sleeping with somebody else.
What, are you retarded?
Jada called it an entanglement with August Alsina while they were apparently separated. The whole thing shattered the nice guy image he'd spent decades building. He looked humiliated, insecure, and far less in control of his own life than he pretended. And that bottled up tension mixed with years of maintaining a flawless public persona was about to blow up in spectacular fashion. But before we get there, it's worth remembering that Will once proudly said this:
I don't believe in violence as the reaction to violence.
A message that made sense coming from a man who'd grown up witnessing his father abuse his mother, a trauma that left him terrified of becoming someone who lashes out. But fast forward to 2022 and Will is back at the Oscars, the same ceremony that he and Jada boycotted in 2016, now the frontrunner and soon to be winner of Best Actor. But before he could take the stage for his big moment, he marched up there like a malfunctioning NPC, slapped Chris Rock, then started shouting at him, all over some throwaway joke about his wife. He did it to defend her honour, but that's what made it even more tragic. He was defending someone who'd already put him through one of the most humiliating moments of his life on her own show. It felt less like a noble act and more like a desperate attempt to prove something, and that becomes even clearer when you remember that seconds before the slap, Will was actually laughing at the joke, right up until we saw Jada's reaction. Anyway, the fallout from the slap was nuclear. The Academy banned him from the Oscars for 10 years, projects were paused, movies were cancelled, Chris Rock roasted him, the internet roasted him. The nice guy, the good guy, the charming, lovable prince had now become the guy who slapped a comedian for telling a joke. People weren't just mad at him, they were disappointed, and disappointment is far worse than hate. It wasn't the act itself that permanently damaged him, it was the collapse of the myth he'd built over decades. Overnight, the most carefully maintained persona in the business fell apart, and the world realised that even Will Smith, the untouchable golden boy, was capable of losing control in front of the world. And so, with his reputation in ruins, Will Smith did what any fallen celebrity does. He launched the apology tour. He apologised on Instagram. He apologised on YouTube. He even travelled to the Taj Mahal to learn the ancient wisdom of not assaulting someone on live television. He spoke about things like healing and growth. He talked about childhood trauma and spiritual journeys. Basically everything short of hiring Morgan Freeman to narrate his redemption arc. But the damage was done. In 2024, Bad Boys 4 finally released after being put on ice over the Oscars incident. And to be fair, the movie did well. A solid comeback, but nowhere near a full restoration. Hollywood still wants nothing to do with him, so he's been pushed back into music, the one place where he can still control the narrative. And well, we really do need to find a new word for embarrassing, because in early 2025, he released an album called Based on a True Story, and basically no one listened to it. It didn't even crack the Billboard 200 in the US, and in the UK he sold fewer than 300 copies in the first week. Shortly after, he dropped a single called Pretty Girls, and the less said about that, the better.
I'm about to do some investing. I'll spend it on you and your bestie, you and your twin on a jet ski.
Yeah, I think we've reached rock bottom. It's just sad. The charismatic superstar who once had the entire movie industry in the palm of his hand has now been reduced to a punchline, a shadow of a man who used to define an era. And maybe that's the real tragedy, watching him try so desperately to reclaim a magic that simply isn't there anymore, while the world couldn't care less and has already moved on. Will Smith was once untouchable, a cultural institution, a guaranteed hit, and now he's living proof that no icon is ever truly untouchable, and that's the blunt truth of it.